What's going on, everyone? We have a great show today, but before we do, make sure I just want to say thank you to those that are going to be watching live and those that are watching on the replay. Make sure you do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, notification bell. That way, any future interviews that pop up come your way, you'll be able to, pretty much you don't want to miss them, right? Unless you're here live. But definitely, like I said, guys, we have a great show today. We have amazing guests. They have amassed 105,000 subscribers. You don't do that without putting effort, time, and great content into the channel. Such an amazing couple, a true dynamic duo. I'm very, very grateful to have Jem and PHIE in the spotlight. And so today, without further ado, let's not delay this. We're going to go ahead and get this underway. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you Jem Mint Collectibles. Hello, how's it going, guys?
Hey,
Hi, what's going on?
Going good, man.
Yeah,
I know you're
intro thing.
Well, yeah, it's one of the things that I kind of play around with and have fun. And I know you're a Bone Thugs and Harmony guy. Yeah, I definitely, I caught something. I believe it was you were at a concert. I'm trying to look, see if I go through this here. Some of the pictures. I got a lot of things in here that I want to show you. And I believe you were backstage, or I think you're right here in this corner over here. It was really cool.
My God, that's so funny.
Yeah, you were right there. That's awesome. Bone Thugs and Harmony. So I know that's one of your jams, your groups.
Yeah.
I live in South Lake Tahoe, which is really close to Reno. It's about an hour away, and they actually, they do concerts and they come there sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's a great thing. But I'm just going to go ahead say hello to the chat real quick. And just kind of, that's one of the things we do. Ace, can you give me an idea who's there, please? Go ahead and take a look, Ace. Take a look. Let's see. All right. We have just saying hello, Christina Payne, Craig Ori, Josh Phelps. We have PHIE. Welcome, guys. And like I said, people will be coming in. And like I said, if you're catching on the rewind, thank you so much. Like I said, it's in the spotlight. This is the way, you guys. This is the way. That's right. So I'm shocked and surprised at being able to sit and talk with you guys, because when I got a chance to see what you do, Marvel has always been there for me growing up. Spider-Man, everything as a kid. And now they make the movies, and so now you get a chance to bring your kids to see this stuff, and you're just like, dude, I saw that when I was reading comic books, I had Marvel Secret Wars, and I'm just sitting in the, on my bed, just reading it. And now it's you have an opportunity to have stuff in your house, like statues and comics and Omni, just the merchandise in general. So that must be a great deal for you guys. And at the same time, a lot of work, I know a lot of work goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I'm very, very surprised at how we get to have something in our backyard, our homes, that we love. Marvel, DC, so it's an awesome thing. So when
we were kids, we had action figures and cartoons, and then we had kind of cheesy movies like Batman and Robin or Batman Forever. So now it's kind of like how our parents were. These kids these days don't know how good they got it. They got all these cool toys and merch and movies, and we had what we had.
Yeah, and I remember, I still have some of the old Star Wars action figures, obviously when the movie was really big, they started working on the action figures that night, that line, because they didn't know how well it was going to do. Mm-hmm. And just the detail of action figures today, and the scale, and just looking at and everything in general. And that's why I want to be able to have you here as an expert, because there's a lot that goes into statues, you know, and I mean, we're talking scales, you know, we're talking, you know, with the detail, everything in general. So I really want to take that time, just kind of to educate, you know, the people out there a little bit. But I want to get it into this a little bit. You know, gem has a word that has several meanings, but for you, it's been a nickname that's kind of stuck. You know, I get the feeling that that's not your real name, but what's come from behind Gem? Because it's awesome, Gem Mint Collectibles.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little funny story. Like I had a personal Instagram page because my friend kept telling me about this thing. Instagram, you got to get on there, and my personal page, it never got any traction, right? But when I decided to start a comic book page, I was gonna name it 9.8 because I was collecting like slabs, CGC 9.8s, and I was playing around with how I would name it or spell it or phrase it. And then I was like, you know what? If I'm going to name it 9.8, I might as well just name it the highest grade you can get, which is Gem Mint. So I named it Gem Mint, not thinking that people would call me Gem Mint, you know, but I would post books and people would be like, oh, Gem, that's a dope book. And I would be like, who's Gem? I'm Gem? Like, I didn't mean for me to call it. But then, you know, after people said it, I don't know, I liked it and it kind of stuck. And Gem Mint Collectibles came later. It's just kind of like a name I always had. Like if I ever opened a comic shop or when the YouTube channel came up, I was like, Gem Mint Collectibles just sounds like professional. So that's just how it came about.
Yeah, it definitely has a good ring to it. In regards now, growing up, you know, what was that like for you? Like, I know that, you know, was it always about the world of He-Man and Mortal Kombat? Or were there other interests, you know, that shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always about collecting toys and then the cartoons and then the video games until probably middle school when I got into music and less into collectibles. And then for you, I guess what you kind of grew up. She has 6 brothers, and they were doing the same thing I was doing. So you were just enamored in that, right? Like
it was just, I was just baked all in.
a lot of pop culture and comics, but I didn't really get back into it until after we had already had kids and everything, and I found eBay, and then I kind of got back into collecting. That got to be like probably early 2010s or so.
So He-Man was one of your characters that you loved. I remember watching like Thundar the Barbarian and He-Man and you know all that stuff over there. And so definitely, like I said, even now today with He-Man coming out, like with the pops, you know, I don't know how much you get into the pop side of things, but do they actually make like He-Man statues? Like, is there those?
Yeah, like there was this a really cool line that I wish I would have jumped on. It's kind of like cartoon style, and they're quarter scale by Pop Culture. It used to be Pop Culture Shock. Now they're PCS Collectibles. So those are pretty cool. And then Sideshow made a He-Man and a Skeletor 1/5 scale. And now I think Tweeterhead is making some really good ones. They got a Hordak statue that looks amazing, and I think those are quarter scale as well. But those were like the first action figures I remember collecting as a kid, and then it went into like Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I mean, and even today, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I mean, they're just huge. And especially like I know my boys watch them; they still kind of like them. It's just nice that you can still have something back then, still be strong today. Yeah. So I want to ask you, you know, what is it like? Let's get into some of the terms because, you know, like if I was checking your channel out for the first time, I mean, I'm going to be hyped. I'm going to be seeing all this stuff, the statues, you know, you know, everything that you guys get, the comic books, the omnibus, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I want to buy, I want to go get stuff, you know, and, but I know that there's a process, but at the same time, like, what are some terms? I mean, we're talking like scales, you know, you got maquettes, legendary scales, busts, mythos, you know, cinematex, like, I mean, all these things that come through. And so now you start thinking, okay, like, do I need a degree to figure this out? Because like, I see something that's really cool, but what are we looking at here?
Yeah, you kind of got to do your homework a little bit, you know, and that's something that I made a mistake when I first started collecting. I pre-ordered a statue, Wolverine versus Hulk, which is a maquette, which is actually 1/5 scale. And then when I was like so excited waiting for this piece, I went to this comic shop and I bought 2 statues. I bought an Apocalypse premium format by Sideshow and a Spider-Man Comiquette, not knowing that the Comiquette was a different scale than the premium format. So I had to learn the hard way right away, the difference between what's a premium format, what's 1/4 scale or 1/4 scale or 1/4 the size of an actual human. And then, 1/5 scale is like the next level smaller, 1/6 scale is even smaller, then 1/10 is pretty much the smallest scale. But that even gets confusing because 1/10 scale is typically a small little figure, but XM Studios makes Transformers that are 1/10 scale, but are comparable to a 1/4 scale because 1/10 of an actual humongous Transformer is about the size of a, you know what I'm saying?
Shoebox. Yeah.
So, well, when you look at like I said, are you a completionist? I mean, because can you just be content with saying, okay, I'm going to get one Joker, one Batman? I mean, there's like so many suits of Batman. I think like there was like 82 different versions of like Batman at some point in comics. But it's like, Spider-Man. I mean, you have so many cool ones like, Spider-Man 2099, the black suit Spider-Man. Like, can you just, for some people, maybe they're content with just having that one. But for you, like, are you a completionist where you have to get everything done?
Ever since I had He-Man toys as a kid and you flipped onto the back of that package and you saw all the other characters in the line, I always had to have all the characters in the line. And I've always been a completionist. But the funny thing about me is that once I complete a line, I kind of get ready to.
It's over. The spark is gone.
And I sell it, and I'll complete a line, and then I'll sell it, and then I'll start something else. So, once I know I've had it, the hunt's over. I've displayed it, I've enjoyed it, and I know that no other ones are coming. That's kind of when I make a decision, and I'll sell it off, and then fund the next thing I want to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is a lot of things to go after, and like when you go into a place like, I know in July you went to the Comic-Con, and it's like walking into there, like so many cool statues, so many cool things that are there. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I would want to just like, okay, I'm getting this and this and this and this. Like, how do you refrain or like figure out which direction, like to start, I could be like, okay, well, we're going to do X-Men this month, are we going to go into Star Wars, and there's just so much out there.
Yeah. For me, it's a little different, because we have the channel. So it's in our best interest to get as much as possible to continue to put out content. But for like regular people who don't always have to have stuff coming in, like, I think you should focus, right? Like, what's your favorite line, man? Are you into Marvel? Even specifically, are you into Spider-Man or X-Men? Are you more Star Wars? And I think you should like find a line that you're into and try to focus, because when you start collecting statues, as an example, you tend to go overboard in the beginning and buy everything up because everything is so cool, So I think you have to kind of have a little bit of restraint and really stick to your guns. A lot of collectors make rules for themselves, like only certain scales, only certain franchises, in things like that.
Which you have to kind of think about it, because if you are a completionist, getting 1/4 scale is going to be, especially if you're tight on space. So if you're a completionist, you may want to get a smaller scale because you're going to need space for all of the characters. You're going to want all the characters.
Yeah, after a while, space is your biggest enemy, especially as a statue collector who collects bigger scale items.
What about cleaning? Like, is it? That's got to be tough too. Like, is it something where you're keeping in a case? I know some of them you have displayed in other places.
Yeah.
I can imagine, the dust that sometimes gets on them, or how do you go about like, is there a certain tool that you use to
you're supposed to dust them if you're not keeping them enclosed, which I don't really do a good enough job of. I swear PHIE stole my makeup brush, and I don't know.
I did. It's on my desk. And first, yes, you do have a rule, Mr. X. He does have rules. You do have rules. What about hashtag restraint?
He made the rule.
What about hashtag?
Yeah, so makeup brush works good. But you know what's funny? Like, we always say makeup brushes, but I noticed it not really working too good recently. And I was considering getting some kind of canned air, but I hear like the chemicals could be bad for the paint. So I don't know, man. I do need to be better on my dusting on my exposed statues.
Yeah. That to me, I think that would probably be one of my nemesis for sure. So obviously to get statues and stuff like that, comics had to have played a role. I know like in 1896, comic books were first introduced and they did really well. Was there like a comic for you, like your first comic, like you're just like, you can't put this down, and it just kind of led into, like some of that love for some of those characters?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it always originates in comics, and the statues are just a representation of that. For me, it was the trading cards in the 90s that got me interested into the characters, and then looking on the back of the cards and seeing what comics they're from, and going to comic shops and picking up trade paperbacks like Death of Superman or Maximum Carnage or Spawn, and then, falling in love with the art and the whole world that comics, existed in. So, that got me as a kid. So I was already a collector because I like toys and cartoons. And then I found comics, and then I found the comic book medium, the video games, the cartoons for those. And it just all, it was a perfect storm of things that really, appealed to me.
Well, that's what I love about also the artwork, it draws you in, because sometimes you just want to have it displayed, on the walls. And I know at Marvel, they got these masterpieces, that come through, and they're really, really cool with their artwork.
That's the set that got me into the whole hobby, and that's what I have framed on my wall here. It's an inexpensive set, 92 Marvel masterpieces. But when I saw them as a kid, I had seen Spider-Man before and Batman, but when I saw those cards, the realism just spoke to me, and the packaging and the black marble look that it had to it, and that was it for me, man.
Well, you just today, I believe it was, you reviewed Daredevil and Elektra, and it looks awesome with the pieces. I mean, they're very detailed, a lot of textures. You don't sugarcoat your reviews, and I know you're regarded highly in the industry. So tell us about your partnerships, like with statue companies, comic publishers. Must be a great feeling knowing, that they look your way for approval.
Yeah, it's something that I always wanted, and I don't know if it's just me, but like when you're in a hobby and you're reviewing products from these companies that you love, you hope they like you back, and you hope that they know who you are. So that was enough for me in the beginning, that they knew who I was. And to build good relationships, I had to learn some things along the way on being on YouTube, and staying away from like unlicensed pieces, and kind of, when I make videos, I kind of think like, man, maybe I shouldn't be dropping F-bombs in my reviews, because not only are other companies watching this, or kids are watching this. So I think I kind of have that mentality, when I'm reviewing stuff. But at the same time, every one of those companies has always said, hey, give your honest opinion. Don't ever say or think that you got to like something just because it's going to make us happy. Like, we want you to be as honest but respectable as possible. So that's how I've always been. Like, instead of saying, hey, this is a crappy thing, I'll just say, this one's good for me.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things I'm sure companies are looking for too, is that having that honesty. They don't want to feel like, you are trashing them. And there are some times where you see reviews that come out and it seems to go in that direction. And I'm sure some of the companies are kind of watching closely. But yeah, I also saw you dabble in a lot of stuff with putting yourself out there. I noticed, like with Kingpin, you kind of designed a little Kingpin of yourself. And I saw, so I decided to kind of mess around myself. I created this like comic book, with the King Returns. And so, what is Kingpin like one of your guys? Like, this is really cool how you did that, put yourself in that comic book form.
No, somebody just made that for me. And it's something that there's like a nickname thing. People would say it and I just run with it. Like, I like Kingpin's a cool character for sure. And if I try to think of who do I look like the most out of any comic book character, it's probably Kingpin. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where the community hits you with a nickname or whatever, and it just kind of sticks. I've had a few fan art Kingpins sent my way.
Yeah, I was going through our short box the other day to put the gem crates together, and I'm like, these are not supposed to be in here. Everything is getting on together.
So no, I mean, let's kind of a little bit of that, you guys, being together, sometimes it's fun when you can, and it should be fun when you have that relationship, but it also gets into the business side of things. And, sometimes, you'll have where, let's say PHIE likes the comics and you're like, okay, that's your thing, or you like it and she's like, that's your thing. But you both seem to gravitate towards it. You have been able to build the channel and work on that relationship. Walk us through that, because it's got to be a little stressful too. I'm sure starting the channel out at times where I'm sure like I could, like PHIE might be like, okay, what's this box doing in my room? Like, you know, or this statue, like you got another statue, really? You know, so I mean, you start kind of building that a little bit and you're like, well, honey, it looks good up here, you know, and you know, but then all of a sudden you guys seem to really, really click with it as a team, you know, that and not just the relationship side, but the business side.
Well, we've always been on the same wavelength. Like we always like the same stuff. So if I got a cool ass statue, she would think it's cool as well, you know. And
well, there's also like a degree of like, I met him when I was 16. Like I've been with Jem for 20 years. I've known him longer than I have.
All right, we've been together since we were kids from nothing. So when we come up together, you know, we got ourselves in a position where I'm able to support us, and she doesn't have to work, and you know, she supports me and what I like, and what I like ended up becoming this other thing that's like bigger than we would have ever expected. It's pretty much the main thing. And I think, you know, that's really, you know, part of the reason why it's been successful, because it's the priority is put first, really. And she helps. She's the head of operations.
You keep saying that now. I don't know. I know nothing.
She's the manager of logistics and pretty face. But no, she supports me. You know, it's never been. And it's funny because we're doing little skits now where she's like the wife that's like, really, but really.
I'm like, do I sound right? Is that right?
Is this what other wives say? She doesn't give a shit. At first, she was like, hey, as long as the bills are paid, do whatever you want. But the bills have been paid for so long that that's not even a thought anymore. It's kind of like, you better get that $3,000 Zod statue. And I was like, but I don't have space for it. And she's like, well, we'll find space for it.
I'm like, if I don't see a constant flow of packages coming in, something's wrong. And my job is at risk. My job of not having a job is at risk.
So she just helps, man. Like a lot of the shipping and, you know, everything behind the scenes is, you know, she's a part of.
I made myself a lot of work with the Jem crates. It takes me a long time to sort of get that all together. So I always have work going.
But PHIE, she manages the Facebook group, and she's mean on there. I couldn't even be mean like that. Kick people out.
Oh, I guess.
She takes it personal.
I take it personal.
Well, let me ask you, because you obviously want to make sure some statues come in. I've heard the term high-end statues. I mean, does this mean like statues that you just kind of put high up on a shelf? Like, you know, what is the difference? Like a high-end statue?
I feel like the Extreme Channel coined that phrase, high-end collectibles, which is just a fancy way of saying it costs a lot of money.
But isn't high-end like a term?
That's a regular term, because think about it. If you are into collectibles, somebody might collect pops, which are $10. Some might collect action figures, which are $20.
High-end pops.
Some might collect high-end, or I'm sorry, hot toys, which are $300. And then statues are probably the most expensive pop culture or comic book related collectible you can get, besides actual comic books that
I was
can be
gonna
very
say, because
expensive
you can
too.
get some really expensive
It's the most expensive toy of a Spider-Man or a Wolverine that you can get. So
yes, and I do I am a doctor. I am also
she fixes a lot of damages. Yes.
Once again, I'm just going to take time. OG Geek, how are you? How's it going? Umpty Scratch, Mr. TechBot, Christina Payne, Jem Pops, Geeky Mama Bear. How's it going, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Let's talk about with statues. I mean, is this something like, obviously you've been doing this for a while, and I mean, can I just like go on Amazon and go get a statue, or like, is there like, you know, like, I mean, there's so many companies out there, and you hear Hot Toys and Sideshow Collectibles, and you know, I mean, just in general, you got legendaries, you know, out there. There's all kinds of things. Where do you begin? I mean, it's got to be like, you walk into a store, it's like a toy store, and it's filled. Which aisle do you go? You go straight, left, right? You know what I mean? It's like, what do we do?
I think most people start with Sideshow, because Sideshow not only produces their own statues, which are great, they also distribute. They're the largest manufacturer and distributor of statues. So you buy directly from them through their website. They have statues in stock. They have statues on pre-order. But I feel like most collectors, once they get into it, they start buying from Sideshow. They get pieces. They try Iron Studios and Prime One. Then you could venture out, and then you start learning. Prime One has statues exclusive to their site, or you learn about XM Studios, or Hot Toys are distributed by Sideshow as well. So you start with Sideshow, and then you'll get it, and you'll start learning where to branch out and try other statue companies. But that's probably the best place to start for sure.
Well, what I like about Sideshow, like for example, when they do like this Jabba the Hutt, they this chain that they got around his neck, they have these like magnetic pieces that fit properly, and so like the detail that a lot of these places put. But I mean, just some of these statues that are out there. Now I saw this one here. Now is this a Sideshow type statue as well, or?
Yeah, so that's made by Sideshow. They actually don't call it a statue. They call that a life-size figure, because underneath the fabric, it's not really a statue. It's kind of like a plastic thing, but the face is highly detailed. But yeah, you have life-size figures. Legendary scale, which you mentioned before, is like a half scale, so like half the size of a person. That's Harley Quinn's considered a premium format, which is a quarter scale piece. And then you have a term called mixed media, which means it's not just sculpted polystone and resin. It could have cloth, it could have chains, it could have other material used to create the statue.
Okay. Like I said, I think it's amazing. Is there like statues now, like you said, you keep them for a while, you get a little bored, and then you kind of move them. Are there some statues this year that you're kind of really getting excited about, whether it's at the end do we have to pre-order stuff, or yeah,
the game is based off pre-orders. With the statue world, everything is pre-order, right? So I do have some highly anticipated statues coming this year, which are from Iron Studios, and they make the Sentinel dioramas, which you may have seen in that same video where I had that life-size
it's coming out this year,
Baby Yoda. Yeah, so at the end of this month, the first one I think is coming out.
What?
And then I think around March or so, the second one might be coming out. I might be a little wrong on the date, but anyway, there's 3 dioramas with Sentinels. The Sentinels are huge, but the X-Men are 1/10 scale, and they're all surrounding them. But I'm really excited to see how those look in person. I mean, I saw them in person, but I'm excited to have them in the house.
So so like I said, with the 6 scale, which is there a preference for you that you've enjoyed out of all of these? I know you have a lot of them, but is there one, the scale size, that you really are like, I just really like these?
Yeah, I really prefer quarter scale, and I like 1/3 scale, which are even bigger. Something about the smaller scales, they just don't do it for me. They don't really have any assembly required. I kind of like having to put it together, and I like the presence of the larger scale pieces.
Okay. So what about are they have these statues that are going to have like maybe comic? Would you like to see like wars, or maybe movie type moments that come back out in statues, or like that, those iconic, like for example, let's say Jaws, coming out of the water, those iconic part of the movie.
Yeah.
But I know for me, like Secret Wars was a huge comic book series, and I know I would love to see, statues that were just kind of, you put them together, you create a scene, like a diorama type of scenario.
Yeah. So funny enough, Iron Studios, they do that. Like with their 1 scale pieces, they have like all the Avengers Endgame characters, and you can make a little diorama with that. And I think, funny enough, Iron Studios, they do movie pieces. Like there's horror pieces. There's Jurassic Park that I think Iron Studios and Prime One. No, does Prime One make Jurassic Park? Anyway, I'm just not really into the movie stuff. I kind of have my stuff themed more around comics, and I'll dabble a little bit sometimes into video game characters if it's like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or something that I grew up with.
So you're definitely a Mortal Kombat guy, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Are you now? Let's get into the Mortal Kombat, because they're talking about obviously bringing it back, rebooting it.
Yeah.
And I know that they were going to talk about basically the opening scene would be something similar to Scorpion and Sub-Zero, but they wouldn't actually have their powers yet. So it'd be kind of going back to that martial art, old school, knock them out, drag them out fight. And I don't know if eventually they get their, obviously they get their powers or something, but that's one of the things that I had heard about. What's your thoughts on, the Mortal Kombat coming back?
It's tough because I love Mortal Kombat so much that I know they're probably not going to do it right. So I'm just going in with super low expectations, and if it exceeds them, that's great. But I kind of feel like, I don't know, Mortal Kombat 11 is pretty big right now, but it's not how it was in 95. Like in 95, it was like crazy, man. Everybody loved Mortal Kombat. And now it's this older thing, and you have to throw around terms like reboots and stuff. So I don't know. I've tried a couple times.
So this is kind of one of the
saw that
shots, and I'm kind of like, when you look at some of this stuff and you're like, okay, I'm like trying to see, okay, can I get behind it? Mm-hmm. And I mean, because I did like Mortal Kombat, just watching it, the original. I mean, even though it wasn't like maybe the top notch, but it was still an entertaining movie for me at the time. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of great, moments, with Mortal Kombat, of course, obviously playing the games and just having that ability to, to finish him and all that. But like I said, seeing some of this stuff where it's going to kind of center around, it'll be interesting to see, the following, how they do it justice, Yeah,
I mean, I'm down for the ride. Like I said, though, I'm not going to go with high expectations, because that's how you get let down.
Yeah, very, very true. So obviously, you have your Mortal Kombat, you have your He-Man, but like I said, you guys also have Sacrifice, and many times you sacrifice for money, for our hobbies that we, basically love. I've heard you use the term, the hobby pays for itself. And I know not too long ago, I mean, because you said you sell some of your pieces and stuff. And I know that you did some accomplishments of maybe paying off like, a truck or something like that, and using that. So you secure pieces for future worth. Can you elaborate on this more? I mean, is it like, how does this work for you how did you learn to do something like this and say, because some people just want to collect and they don't even think about it. And you've been able to use it in a grand scale for your business.
It's funny though, when you ask, how do I learn it? I learned it as a kid. I learned it like, my parents weren't the type to just buy me whatever I wanted. Like they would hook it up on Christmas and birthdays, but like sometimes shit would come out in September, you know what I'm saying? So like, if I wanted that Nintendo 64, I started looking around and be like, you know what? I don't really play the Super Nintendo anymore. Let me sell that with all the games to one of the kids in the neighborhood, and I'll take that money and buy the Nintendo 64. And that's always been like my thought process with collectibles, because they hold value, and sometimes appreciate in value. So whenever I wanted that new shiny thing and I couldn't afford it, I would just take a look around and say, man, what would I not mind letting go? And there's always something, especially if the set has been completed and I'm already kind of tired with it, So, I took that mentality into collecting. I amassed a nice collection. And then, fortunately, the channel became this thing that really helps me to continue to collect as well. So it kind of turned into this living thing that, I review statues and the people view them and the channel grows, and then I get paid from YouTube and I could buy more, and it's just a never-ending cycle.
Well, I also saw not too long ago there was like these DC logo lights that you guys got, and so it was different type of product, and it was really, really cool to get new stuff sent your way and be like, hey, check this out. Yeah. What was that about? Like, I mean, is that like they're like neon bar signs, or just I mean, they're really cool looking. I think the Wonder Woman, and you had the Superman.
Yeah. I know. Those are dope. I mean, that sometimes, you get an email that's a private company, DC Illuminated, and I think what they did was they made those for DC, and DC really liked them, and they used them in their like presentation or something like that, and they got a license to produce them. So somebody from the company, knew of the channel and emailed us and asked if we'd like to check them out. So you get offers like that every now and then. I get a lot of offers, and I don't really take advantage of all of them, but that was one that I was like, yeah, I'd like to see that.
So somebody said a comment, sell the pops. Now, do you dabble a little bit in the pops, or is it something because obviously there's some really cool detailed pops with some, comic book heroes. There are in some ways like a little mini statue, but they're nowhere in comparison. But is there pops out there that have kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, there was a couple of months where I kind of got into it. PHIE was never with the pops, but she rode along with me, and I think they were fun to hunt. And the whole phrase that there's a pop for everyone, because they have like damn near every license. And it was fun to, they'll make obscure characters. Like if you like Spider-Man, they got you covered. Scarlet Spider, 6 Arm Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2099, every kind of one you could think of. So it was fun for me, and they were inexpensive, but it got to be too much. And like I turned around and had like 150 of them, and I had nowhere to put them, and I never really wanted a pop wall. So I just decided to get out of it while I can, and we just got them all in storage right now.
Yeah, for me, I collect horror. Like I grew up with big horror, so like Scream and Chucky and Jason and all that. So I mean, I really try to build on that. But there are some pops that come in, like anime. I'm not that strong on anime.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, okay, like I need to start moving out, and either sell them and go for the things, collect what you want. I mean, that's really important. So I'm asking, so obviously you guys work together in a business and relationship, and it can be stressful, but is there a moment or a story that became a fun connection between you guys, like as you were getting with this business, like a Comic-Con trip, a video shoot, something that you guys, from time to time look back and laugh at and be like, yeah, I mean, you've been doing this for in that 3-year range, right? So, but you've been collecting and doing other stuff. Whether it's music, there's always seems to be some kind of a story that you're like, yeah, I remember that one time, like you go to a Comic-Con and you lock your keys in the car or something,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that the channel has done, where we've had to maybe travel, or we drove to California, we flew to New York, we enjoyed the conventions or meeting people and like funny things that happen, or stuff that we've read together that we reviewed together, like Saga or The Inkle, or not Invincible, a couple of things that we've read and reviewed together and that we shared together. So just all the experiences, there's not really one that stands out that much.
Okay.
But just giving us an excuse and a reason to travel, I think is cool. Because we're not really big travelers. So if Comic-Con comes up, it's like, all right, cool. Now we get to go to California.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. We were actually prepared to go to San Diego Comic-Con. I had reservations. So we were going to go to Disneyland, and then of course everything hit. So how has that been a little bit different from the statue? I know you did go in July. You did go to a statue con, and it seemed like there was a room and the statues were displayed, and you guys were, at the time, the only ones in there.
Yeah.
Is it harder? Like I know for Pops, they did a virtual con. They did a lottery system. How does it work for statues or, in that market?
So for me, the statues are the real reason why I go to Comic-Con. So the fact that Sideshow decided to set up a virtual con and invite us where in a year where we would have not been able to go was super cool. And you're not there to buy the statues. It's not like you're waiting in line for an exclusive. They do new reveals. So for me, I want to obviously see the new reveal, and I like to get the footage to release it on the channel. So that's like the main reason why I'm out there. So I was fortunate enough to still be able to do that last year because they had New York Comic-Con and San Diego Comic-Con both in California in their one of their offices. So still got to experience it, which was cool.
So I will say, for New York, I mean, obviously going there is a trip too. I know recently, congratulations, 105. I believe that that gets a reward, right? They send you the YouTube that they send you something.
Yeah. So at 100, you've got it right there in the background. You get the silver play button, man. So we just got it. We did a little unboxing in the beginning of the statue review I released yesterday, and super exciting to get, validating, and just drives you to want to continue to do more, man. Yeah, there it goes.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was telling my kid about that, and he's all, oh wow, like because they've heard about that stuff, and so they get all excited.
Normally, you only see the big guys get like PewDiePie and all these people. They get that type of stuff. So yeah, it's cool to see someone that in our hobby that's doing it. So a lot of people are catching up, man. A lot of my peers are catching up, and it's possible. The sky's the limit on YouTube, man. That's what I always liked about it. There's no limit. There's no salary cap. It's all what you put into it. And I always
and you put a lot of work. I mean, your thumbnails, I mean, your live streams, I mean, your videos, I mean, you're constantly grinding and grinding, and it obviously has paid off. So I mean, I mean, so do you guys get putting that much effort into things? I mean, do you have time for yourself? I mean, do you say, okay, today we're no social media, no videos, no nothing, it's just us? Or
nah, I mean, I wish. Now, I mean, there will be a day where I don't have to record, because sometimes I'll record a couple of videos in a day and I'll have them on deck ready to go. But I check social media. I always check on how everything's going. But the thing is, it's fun. This is my hobby. I would be into this stuff even if I didn't have the channel. So it's not like, oh God, I got to clock into YouTube today. It's like, no, I really am excited for this statue. And I like other content creators will know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like, it's exciting to edit your video and record it and grow and practice. And you always feel like your most recent video is the best one you've ever done, even though if you watch that one 6 months later, it's like the worst thing ever, because you're constantly improving yourself, So it's a hobby in itself. Like, growing the channel is a hobby, creating the content's a hobby. They're all separate things, which I enjoy. And yeah, I probably should take a break or not do it as much, but I am very focused. And the more something does better or does well, the more I feel like I want to put into it,
Right. And like I said, there's a lot of great rewards with that. And I also noticed, tattoos. You guys have some tattoos. I have a few as well. Any stories with your tattoos? I'm like, do you just, that goes into the artwork, or is it something like if you go to a Comic-Con, you're like, okay, we're going to get something, or.
Well, the tattoo thing is funny because it kind of it kind of shows you my mentality with everything. I got tattoos before I was back into collecting, and I got a couple of tattoos, and I was around a lot of people at the time. So I would go back to my friends and they would be like, oh man, who did that tattoo? And I would tell them. And before I know it, I guess a lot of my friends were going to my same guy. So one day I walk in and my guy goes, hey, listen, you sent a lot of business my way. I'm going to give you some free ink. So I was like, all right, cool. So he gave me a free tattoo. I made an appointment because I'm very eccentric. If I like something, I got to go all the way in. So I got sleeves and everything. So I make an appointment. Next time I get a tattoo, I go to pay. He goes, no, I told you I got you free ink from now on. And I was like, from now on? He's like, yo, from now on, you get free tattoos. So I was like, shit, I got all these tattoos in like 6 months because I would just think of an idea, jot it down, write it down, make an appointment for the next week, and just keep going. Now, I wish I would have taken my time because all my tattoos are just like whatever bullshit tattoos, and I would have liked some better, maybe comic book ink or something like that. But it was just kind of funny because if I'm into something, if I'm into collecting, I'm gonna find a way to get everything. Same with tattoos. I'm not content with okay, yes, I'll pay $400 a session and I'll have 300 sessions. I'm gonna figure it out and find a way to get the hookup. So that's kind of how tattoos went down.
Nice. So I'm just kind of asking, like I said, because you guys are together, like I said, when you collect, and you said you guys have been doing this for a long time, you've been, it's not like some couples, they're introducing the other one to it, but you guys have come from the background where you both kind of share. Yeah. But what about, I know it can be stressful, even though it is fun and it is something we enjoy, there is still stress that becomes involved. How do you guys, what is about each other's ability to handle the pressure of running the business together? I mean, do you guys, like you said, I mean, she handles a certain portion and you're like, that's I'm not even touching it. And you're going to be like, I'll take care of this, or you bounce each other, the ideas off of each other. How does that work with you guys?
She had to step away, but she would say she doesn't run anything on the business end. She just knows to let me handle that. I'll handle the business aspect of it, and I'll stress over things that she'll be like, why are you even stressing? It's going to all work out. And it always does. Sometimes I might stress out if something doesn't perform well, or, I put out daily content. So sometimes I'll be like, dang, I don't know what I'm going to even put out this week, and I'll stress out, but it's then we'll go to the P.O. box and we'll have 3 statues Marvel sent us early omnibus or whatever. So it always works out. I should probably not even let it stress me because, like I said, it'll work out.
So now you mentioned a term, like I said, because we're here to educate. And So if somebody came in the chat and they're like, he just said omnibus,
Yeah.
okay, is that like, are we speaking a foreign language? Like, I mean, what's an omnibus?
So an omnibus is a hardcover book like this, right? Like single issues of comic. Well, let me show the front here. So this is the Captain America omnibus by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. It's the Silver Age Captain America stories, which collects all these issues you see on the back. So this is a hardcover book that's a little bit bigger in size than a traditional comic book. And I fell in love with this format because if I were to try to buy Tales of Suspense 59 through 99 and Captain America 100 through 113, it's going to cost a lot of money. Then you're talking about varying conditions. So the omnibus format collects either an entire run from a creative team, like everything that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did for Captain America, or there might be an omnibus that collects an entire storyline like Secret Wars, like you mentioned. So Secret Wars has an omnibus as well that collects all 12 issues.
So they came. So I'd imagine probably the first omnibus that came out, was it a Captain America, or I think it could have been, what did I say, maybe Fantastic Four?
Actually, I think the first one was Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think it had the same kind of spine like this. And then I want to say maybe Fantastic Four Volume 1 by Stan Lee and Jack. Was it Jack Kirby?
Yeah, because I mean, I thought when I was reading, I thought they said something about Fantastic, because I figured Fantastic Four would be because it's one of their first properties, you know, besides Namor. And, you know, so do you sit, I mean, somebody had asked, do you sit and read all those? I mean, you sit down and you just bring it out and you're just able to read those stories. Like, I mean, that seems, you know, it can take a lot of time, but, you know, you get to enjoy. I mean, there's a lot of great ones that you have. How do you like keep them? I don't know. Like, I mean, they're different than a comic book. You could put a comic book in a slab. You can't put those in slabs. Right. So, you know, like the care for them, because you said the spines. So what would a spine be?
Yeah. So like, you know, like a regular book, you have a spine on the side here, right? So the spine is something that you want to kind of protect when you're opening the book up, right? I always say you got to stretch the spine out. So you kind of flip the pages on both sides so that you relax the spine. You know what I mean? So there's glue involved with the ribbon, and you don't want the glue to harden and crack and get, you know, deformed. So that's kind of like a practice really with any hardcover book. And then the book, like, you know, it's a hardcover in itself. So it kind of protects the inside that way. The dust jacket's the only thing that's really something you got to worry about. And I would recommend to take that off if you're going to read the book.
Well, okay. So an omnibus, I mean, and I've heard graphic novels in comic books. I mean, so do you prefer the omnibuses over everything? I mean, do you enjoy graphic novels?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer omnibus because it's like that completionist in me. The omnibus gives you everything, especially like in an event type of omnibus. It'll include all the tie-ins and everything that's involved with that. As far as like a trade paperback, those are okay as well. But to me, the omnibus is just the most pristine format. It's kind of like the difference between a statue and like a hot toy figure. You know what I mean? So the omnibus would be the most pristine way to read these stories, I would say.
Okay. So in your opinion, would you say like the industry is facing like changes, like with the shipping, like overseas? Because I know some of the statues, they come from overseas, right?
Right.
So how does this factor in choosing companies to buy from? Because you obviously you're pre-ordering, you're waiting. Some have to be quicker than others, you know, and it's one of those things where you're like, when you finally get the statue, you're like, oh, I forgot I ordered this, but you're excited. So, I mean, you know, it must be hard to look at overseas companies and have the trust and look at the shipping and especially in, you know, with today.
Well, I don't know. I mean, with Sideshow, I mean, you're paying Sideshows, and I trust them. They're a huge company, and they get the stuff on freight from overseas, and then they ship it domestically. So you don't really see those costs. But sometimes, yeah, I'll order directly from Prime One, and the shipping will be more expensive, or XM Studios. But I just factor that into that's how much the statue costs. I don't look at it like, well, this is a $1,200 statue, but it's $300 shipping. Forget that. I just look at it like, all right, this is a $1,500 statue, you know, and you know that's just kind of my mentality when it comes to those overseas statues.
Okay. So what would you say like to people starting out with this industry? I mean, you got comics and statues, omnibuses, like memorabilia, and some people it can be really overwhelming. When you were coming into this, like, how did you know the direction that you wanted to go from day one with your video? Like, I mean, you obviously had a vision, and that vision has put you on a path. You know, once again, congratulations with 105. You're doing something there from that start, you know, and it's continued to grow.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the biggest things was, what did I want as a fan? Like, I watched statue reviewers or statue collectors, and they would put out videos, you know, every now and then when they got a statue. But I was like, man, I want some every day. Like, I need something in my morning routine. So it was important for me to put out daily content, and then later come to find out that's actually really good for the YouTube algorithm to have consistency. So not necessarily that it was daily, but the fact that it was consistent was really good. And I think that, you know, me collecting different types of things and not just one focus, like I didn't just collect comic books. I collected omnibus statues, arcade one-ups, you know, anything that I liked, I made it a part of the channel, and it drew all these different people in. So the 105 subscribers is probably a large chunk that only collects statues. And then you have another chunk that only reads new comic books and they see my reviews weekly. So it's kind of like a diverse crowd. And then I'm sure a lot of this stuff overlaps. And I think that's really just what helped the channel, being consistent, having a wide variety of content. And then at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is, you know, continuously improving on the production quality, on my performance, or whatever you want to call it, and kind of learning how to make videos and be on camera, and all just, you know, created this perfect storm.
Okay. Well, let's take a little commercial break and pay tribute to the 105 real quick, here. All right. Like I said, once again, you know, that must be an amazing thing to like. Now, have you gone back to the YouTube studios? Like, do you get to do like recording over there, or is that something in the future?
I've tried to make an appointment at one of those, but I could never really figure out the process. I was always interested in doing that, but I don't know. I mean, like they have one in New York, so around New York Comic Con, I wanted to try to do it in 2019, but it's kind of hard to figure out how to book that.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, hopefully, like I said, this year we can have an opportunity to get some normalcy going on. And I know it's always tough, you know, going through what we're going through, but it's affected us, you know, with the Comic Cons and having to collect differently, and more people are at home creating channels and buying stuff. But definitely, like I said, an amazing accomplishment. You know, congratulations to both of you guys for that hard work and that you put into it. You know, what were the emotions once that hit and you're just like, you know, like that number came through?
100K?
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, it was a little bit of a relief, because I think it was such a strong push, you know, from going to like probably around 60,000 to 75,000. And then YouTube, you have ebbs and flows, you know, so we were going really strong from like 40 to like 70, and then it's kind of like tapered off a little bit. So I was really pushing, you know, and I feel like, you know, I started seeing comments like, hey, you've been on 86,000 for a while. And I'm like, well, damn, bro, that shit ain't easy. But anyway, yeah, once it hit, I kind of had a little bit of sigh of relief. I'm like, all right, man, we hit the 100. Let me breathe a little bit. Because the next thing's a million. There's not really a milestone achievement, even though I celebrate all the milestone shit. We're doing something for 110 coming up, you know. But I was able to breathe a little sigh of relief.
So we have a question from Connecticut Comics. Does a damaged dust cover affect the value of an omnibus?
Yeah, I would say so. You know, I would say like if you have a sealed omnibus that's out of print, that's going to go for a premium. If it's a really sought after book and you're like, hey, it's got a couple of dings, that person's going to have to decide if they're going to deal with that or not. But the thing with the omnibus, if it's in print, it's not really worth buying from a third party, because you could just buy it online for undercover price. It's when they go out of print that you got to deal with the aftermarket, and that stuff plays a factor. But at the end of the day, if someone really wants the book, you're going to find a buyer.
Yeah. So we're seeing now, I mean, obviously Marvel wants to make their money. Disney wants to make their money. You got flower pots, bottle openers, electronic devices, cutting boards, statues, you name it. Like, I mean, everything's out there, with these characters. They're obviously cashing in. So the market seems to be flooded with superhero type items. Is that the case, or are we not getting enough? I mean, would you say that, because obviously, this is the business that we support, and it helps everything run. So we're excited about it. But where do you see this market going? Because, you got other movies in the project, you got Disney Plus and, WandaVision and stuff. And so there's obviously a stronghold with the superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, is the bubble going to burst one day? It could be. Is it going to go the way of the Western? Statues are definitely an oversaturated market right now, which is good and bad. You have a lot of options out there. Omnibus are getting printed more than ever, especially from Marvel. I don't know. I just kind of am trying to enjoy what I enjoy while I can. I don't really know. I can't really predict if it's going to crash or not. I do think the movie market is a big factor in how successful superheroes are in pop culture, because let's face it, man, the MCU brought in a ton of new collectors by the millions, so that having a year off, and now WandaVision's back and it's getting mixed reviews. I mean, that's not a good look. If you have enough movie flops, that's going to affect the comic book market for sure. The back issue market and all that.
Yeah. And I mean, I just know it's been solid. I mean, like I said, growing up as a kid, you had comics and now you have comics, and I just hope that it does, hold and stick around. I noticed about 4 months ago, you had a live with Kyle Higgins and Dustin from Two Boys or Two Brother Comics. Obviously he's the Batman franchise and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. A lot of fun being able to do stuff like that. Also with the channel. So has this led you to meeting, like people, like whether it's through Comic Cons or to be able to come on your channel? Have you had some really good experience with some celebrities?
Not really, not really. I've interviewed a couple of creators, but you know what? I don't know if that's really for me. I don't necessarily know if I want to be an interviewer. So, okay. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing too, because then it's like if I read his book and I don't like it, then I feel bad, So if I had it my way, I would really never meet any of the creators or celebrities. And just review the products themselves.
And you're used to, I mean, with statues, I mean, you're telling it like it is, and you're going to break it down. And they're like telling you not to hold back, and now all of a sudden, like, you might have that creator on, and you're like, well, I didn't really like the book, but so definitely from there. Now I also saw you did a video recently, not a few, you have so many of them, but it's like Michael Keaton or Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Batman. Do you think the actor that gets to play Batman now, Robert Pattinson, how do you think he's going to do? And I mean, is there a favorite Batman, actor for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think what is it, Robert? What's his name?
Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. Yeah. I don't have high expectations. Like, oh man, Robert's going to kill this role. So I'm going to go in just with no expectations and see how he does. I mean, I know he's a talented actor, and I know people will judge him from Twilight, but he's had other movies that really showcase what he could do more. I've always been an Affleck fan, so I've always liked his Batman, but not my favorite movies though, So obviously, Michael Keaton has a place, in my heart as a kid that grew up in the 90s, was born in the 80s. But I'm just open-minded. I don't really care, like, who they try out. If it sucks, it sucks. But I think, we'll give him a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him in the costume, but I'm trying to wrap around as the Bruce Wayne, and I think that's the problem that I'm like. I don't know if I could, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, what's his name that played the Joker? Nobody thought that he was going to be able to do it, and he did. So
that's going to be the biggest comeback to anybody who doubts any actor. Like, everybody hated Heath Ledger, and then he's the greatest Joker of all time, arguably.
Yeah. So what would you say? What is? Let's get the terminology too for people that are still new and they're learning about you. Geminites, like So we have, like I said, I know that Geminites never die. So is that your association with people that are paid to the channel? I know you don't do a lot of Patreon, but you do a lot of channel supporting. And what's the thought behind that?
I just considered like anyone who was a viewer of the channel, you're a Gemini, you're of the channel, like you're from here. Like that was like one of the channels that inspired me to start this was Cartel from Hell, and he would always call his viewers the Cartelians. So I was like, I like that. I'm gonna use mine, but they're not gonna be. They're gonna be the Geminites. So then when I made the Facebook group, I was like, oh, this is just the Geminites Facebook group. It was just kind of one of those things, a lot of times you see that where like maybe a musician will have a name for their fans, or like a YouTube channel will have a name for their viewers. So it was just kind of one of those things.
Okay.
And I guess I'm big on branding. I mean, some people might look at it as being narcissistic or something, but I just look at it like it's all about the gem. It's all about the brand,
Well, if it's, there's, you got to, especially as you're building your channel, you definitely, people want to be a part of it. They feel connected to it. So it's a way of connecting. I definitely agree with it. Now, right. This statue here that you recently got, the Hulk, this thing looks sick. Walk us through, like, that Incredible Hulk was really, really cool. You guys should check that video out. Who determines, like, you get stuff sent to you, or do you I know you do some pre-orders and stuff, but it's like the way that some of these statues are coming in, is there a difference? Like 1 month it's Marvel, 1 month it's DC, or do you figure, like, it does seem like you're going more Marvel?
No, not at all. Everything I review is based on, they're all new. These are always new pieces that I review. So it's based on the release schedule of the company, and I review statues from multiple companies. So yeah, it just so happens that XM Studios might have put out a Red Hulk, and now that's shipping to everybody who pre-ordered it, not just me. And then like Prime One Studio with the Berserk statue I just reviewed, or sometimes I have older stuff like today's video, the Daredevil and Elektra. That's just kind of like a little bit filler content, but most of all those big statues are always new releases, and just things that I had on pre-order. And I tried to pre-order everything that I like. So right. It might not be something I collect, but it's always something that I like, because I'm not going to buy something I don't like and then try to review it and then have to deal with selling it or something like that. So it's always stuff that I'm into. I probably won't keep Red Hulk for years, but I like the character and I like the statue, and I wanted to review it.
Yeah, and I know he may be coming into the Marvel fold in some of the MCU as well. Now there is a question. There's books, movies, and games. Is there another medium that doesn't really exist that you'd like to see?
Like plays? There's books, movies, and games. I don't know. I have bad eyes, so like the thought of virtual reality freaks me out. That's like my nightmare, to have something stuck here that I can't move my eyes from. But
my boys just got the Oculus. I got it for them for Christmas, and they love it. But the problem is, like, they'll do it down here. I'll be working on some stuff on the computer, and then like I'll walk like to go get something, and he's moving around. He's got his like Cyclops, and he's all over the place. And then he hits me, and he's like, "Dad," I'm like, "Well, like, you're the one sitting there in the middle of the room doing all this stuff, around." But they seem to be really, really enjoying it. So it was either like, okay, PlayStation 5 or Oculus. The Oculus was cheaper. But there's a lot of cool things that you could do with it. But I do agree. I did put it on, and I was looking. I was like, wow, I felt like it was claustrophobic,
Yeah. It's hurting my eyes just thinking about it, man. My eyes are shot from years of playing video games and shit, man. But I like the retro arcades, man. The arcade 1-ups. They just announced Killer Instinct is coming out. I'm super hyped on that. The X-Men arcade beat 'em up is coming out. So that's like another thing that I'm into that I collect.
If you let's talk superheroes for a second. If you were a superhero, Gem, what would be your superpower? There's so many of them out there. Yeah. What would you enjoy having? And why?
Yeah, I was like, flight. Everyone wants to fly. But you know what as a kid, what I always liked, and not even from comics, they had this show on Nickelodeon called The Tomorrow People, and they could teleport. And I always thought teleporting was the coolest shit. And I don't know why. I must have been a bad kid, but I was like, you could teleport right into a bank and just steal the money. And what I loved about that movie, Jumper, I always feel like this was the most realistic superpower movie because the first thing he did was jump and teleport into a bank and steal all the money. And I was like, yes.
They're like, see, they got it right. That's what people would do. But, well, I mean, you look at Nightcrawler, you know, like Nightcrawler's really like
I wouldn't want to look like Nightcrawler, and I wouldn't want it the smell of brimstone or whatever they say. But like the Tomorrow People was more like a Power Rangers, you know what I'm saying, colorful like thing or whatever. The Jumper was a dope movie. If you guys haven't seen Jumper, you should check that out. It's probably like 2005 type movie.
Yeah, I'm sure that's one of the ones I'm sure my boys will probably enjoy too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is your opinion? Why do you think superheroes and even villains, you know, why we love them? Like, you know, obviously there's some villains that outgain more popularity than the superheroes, but, you know, that attraction to the superhero and the villain, like, why do you think that stigma's there?
Yeah, I mean, it's modern day mythology. I think that's a deeper conversation on the human psyche and kind of looking towards these more powerful than you type of things, you know. And I think with comics, the art is so cool. It's like comics was always a cool thing. Like think about characters like Venom and Ghost Rider, and like that's why I love the 90s or the late 80s. It's like it was just cool stuff. And I think that's the problem now a lot of times in this modern day and age, that people forget that this shit is supposed to be cool. You can't really be making this stuff to try to appeal to certain demographics because, like, that's as the kids say, that's cringe. You can't deliberately make something for a certain demographic. It's just got to be cool shit. Just make it cool, and people like it.
Well, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, being able to have optic beams come out of your, you know, your sight right there. Yeah. Now, if Cyclops and Superman went at it with heat vision, and they were both putting their optic beams and vision, do you think Superman ends up with a better hand at Cyclops? Do you think Cyclops probably loses out on that one?
Yeah, because Cyclops blasts are always so weird to me because like it's like his eyes are really portals to another dimension, and like I don't know, does it even hurt? It doesn't burn. I think it's just a blast of energy. Whereas Superman is straight; it'll just burn you or cut off your head, even if you're General Zod.
Now, obviously, DC has great stories. Okay, their characters, you know, even the statues. What would you say is, in your opinion, for DC to get off of the ground? Now, Marvel's gone a long direction. I mean, is there characters that you'd like to see them bring into films that would maybe possibly help? Or do you think, like, I know they talked about the Reverse Flash story, and I mean, it just seems that DC can't. I don't know if it's because of the villains. I don't know. They just can't seem to connect that world the way that Marvel has.
The thing is, it's their same problem in comics. You know, the people will say it's 10 Batman titles a month. You know, they struggle with their other titles. But what's funny is they have the biggest superheroes with Batman and Superman, but I don't know that they have the best lineup for, like, definitely not a shared universe. Now, there's ways they could have done it right. They could have done it right with Flashpoint to reset it. Green Lantern Corps could be more of a player. Hawkman could be more of a player. But for some reason, they tried to catch up. They tried to catch up to Marvel way too late, and they tried to copy what they did, which was a mistake. And then they tried to do their own thing. And then they had mixed kind of things happening. You had, like, Suicide Squad that sucked, but Wonder Woman was good. And Shazam was good, but Wonder Woman 84 sucked. So I don't know, man. They need a whole new direction. They need a Kevin Feige. They need somebody – like, I thought Jeff Johns and Jim Lee were going to be those comic book guys that really put that first, but I don't know that Warner Brothers, their executive team, is willing to let go and let creative people run it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy is coming over doing Suicide Squad 2. And, I mean, it's like, okay, are we going to get a Wonder Woman 1984? Or are we going to get a really good version of Suicide Squad? Like something like a Guardians of the Galaxy came through. And that's the hard part, is like, you know, just going through these same stories. And it's like, okay, you might as well just scrap and just get some different. You have a lot of characters, you know, let's get a Swamp Thing. Let's get a darker DC, let's try something different.
And I mean, they did the Swamp Thing show. They had the Constantine movie back before the big movie boom with Keanu Reeves. It's tough. It's the same thing that they struggle with in comics to this day,
Yeah. Well, I definitely, like I said, I mean, I know that in this day and age with the comics and the statues, like it's really exciting. And I know that you guys put a lot of effort, a lot of work into it. I really appreciate you just taking the time today to come in here and talk about things. What is now I know that road is going to continue to get paved for you. What is the vision moving forward? Like, is there something on the horizon, some collaboration, some ideas, some things that you're like, okay, 2021, I'm taking the channel this way. Like, I mean, do you think about that? Yeah.
I mean, I think about like, how do you get to the next level? I mean, there's definitely been like a television show opportunity that, may or may not fall through, stuff like that. I think is, next level stuff, collaborations on other channels, similar size channels or bigger channels. And the content that's coming in, just making sure that, I'm reviewing the best shit that you could review, and that I'm doing it with the highest level of production and with the most authenticity, and just keep doing more of the same,
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you guys have a lot that's going on, and I wanted to make sure that we got stuff out there.
Yeah.
Is there anything that, that you would say to look forward to in this year that you're excited about from a comic book standpoint? Is there like movies that you think might turn into something for the bust or the collectors? Like when they say comic books, like Thor, the King Thor, like there's a lot of characters. Like, for example, She-Hulk might be in the Spider-Man, so like it increases the value of the pop. So when movies are set to come out, like they're going to have the Batman, does that do something for the value of statues? Or do they hold their own no matter what? Like, I mean, how do we look at that? Like, if you were going to sell a statue and you've had it for a few years, like, how do you put value to put a price?
It's funny that you say that, because the movies don't really affect the value of statues like they do with key issues or maybe with pops, like you mentioned. It's all about, is that statue still available from the manufacturer or not? Is it sold out? Same with Omnibus. If it's sold out, then it's supply and demand thing. How much is it worth now? How badass of a piece is that people missed out on and that they want? Now, what Josh is saying in his next comment is that these new movies might dictate what new statues come out. Maybe we'll see a Nova statue from Sideshow or Fantastic Four statues now that they're going to be in the MCU. So that's what we're looking forward to as statue collectors. But whether or not it appreciates in value is going to be was the piece good enough? Was the edition size low enough to where it's sold out and now you can't even buy it through Sideshow or XM or Prime One? You can only buy it from Gem or from Eric or somebody who already owns it on the aftermarket. And then it's, what are you willing to pay?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, what else should people know about statues as collectors? Because you seem to have a handle on it big time. Like I said, to be able to do what you do, like, I'm jealous, and not on the YouTube side of it, just because you can walk in your room. Like I'm a horror guy also. And I would love, like, if I had a house, I would have one room that would have life-size type statues of like a Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, just have it down there like a little museum. Have you thought, about like expanding your rooms and creating something on a bigger scale? I mean, do you have some life-size type statues?
I don't have life-size. I actually never really was into the comic versions of life-size statues, but yeah, man, I'm starting to think ahead. I'm starting to think of, maybe another property where every room is its own theme and its own set for recording videos and stuff. So I'm starting to think bigger like that. I'm trying to get the finances together because, it's a good investment opportunity as real estate and also benefits the channel. I'll probably do it definitely when the channel gets bigger, but it's stuff that I think about for sure.
Okay. And now, so you moved from Florida, and now you're in Texas. How do you, I mean, how's that market? I mean, as far as collecting and do you get a chance, I mean, with the malls and I mean, do you go in and see like, okay, you'll see like these little small scale, statues and stuff. And you're like, you know, like I get excited when I see that, but then sometimes I see the prices and I'm like, I don't know, is that overpriced? Is it like, how do you know if you're getting a good deal on a statue?
Yeah, see, that's why like I would always say look to the manufacturer. Who makes those? Are they Kotobukiya? Are they Diamond Select? And I would just go to their site. I would always buy directly from the manufacturer and not a third party. Like, yeah, it's cool if you found a cool statue at Think Geek. I would look to see who's the manufacturer and try to buy it from there. With me, that's what I do. I mean, I just buy the bigger statues from Sideshow or from XM or whoever, and I know that I'm getting the best deal. The third party's got to have to mark up to make money.
What about these other, like, okay, like a company that's been around for a while, but they do statues, the Bradford Exchange. I know I've seen their website and they seem to have some pretty good looking detailed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you can obviously make payments and things like that, but is companies like that, I mean, should we stay away from, like, it seems like a lot of people want to put their hands in the business.
Mm.
And so it's like, okay, and you kind of get easily fooled, like, well, should I invest in this? And then of course you get the product and you're thinking, man, it's really not worth what I spent,
Mm.
So you obviously want to get quality product. And I know Sideshow Collectibles, like you talked about,
Yeah.
What would you say besides Sideshow Collectibles, a couple other companies that are on the rise? I mean, other companies, do they have to like compare to Sideshow Collectibles because they're at the top, and
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they're the biggest, but Sideshow has a nice little niche where they have like the most affordable statues that are the most highly detailed. But you have companies like Prime One Studio, who is definitely on the rise, and they specialize really in 1/3 scale, which are even bigger and highly detailed with great paint applications. But you're going from like a $500 to $600 range to like $1,000 to $1,300 range. So it's kind of like Sideshow is a great starting off point, and then once you get into the collecting world, and you'll find these other companies like Prime One and XM, who have a more expensive product, but they're equally as good. But I think with like Prime One, you're getting a larger scale with the 1/3, and the detail might be a little bit more intricate and involved. But I think, if you really wanted to learn, I think you should watch, reviews like mine, reviews from other guys who are doing it, and kind of see what they say, and then make your own decision on what do you think's for you, what are you comfortable spending. Maybe a company like Prime One has the Berserk line, which Sideshow doesn't have. So I'm all in on the Prime One Berserk line because I really like that franchise, and they're the only ones that are producing statues at this point.
Okay. So Ordinary Joe, he asked, do you guys think the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes movie will be the start of this franchise needs? So like G.I. Joe statues, I mean, would you, something like that? Are you a G.I. Joe guy?
Nah, I never was into G.I. Joe. Like, I was always into Turtles around that time. But Prime One has actually done G.I. Joe statues, movie version, and Sideshow as well. But will that movie be the start? They got to really appeal to the nostalgia, man. They got to make the people who watched that cartoon and collected those little toys, they got to make that movie for them, because that's who's going to support it and make the movie successful. It's going to be hard for them, I think, to catch a new audience.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I'm just, looking at just kind of looking at stuff. Like I said, 50% of watermelon is better than 100% of a grape. All right. Yeah. So after 3 years on YouTube and, your milestone of 105, are you content with like the direction it's going? Do you feel like you need to expand in other directions? Or, I mean, like when you look at channels, because sometimes, you can be complacent, right? And you think, okay, everything's going good, and you do the same things for a while. And then, like you said, you were stuck around that 86. What type of things do you look to spark that creativity to maybe like put it in a different direction? Because now, I mean, you got to the 105, but the next milestone is going to be even that much harder.
Yeah, for sure. Right now I'm content because the arrows are still green. Everything's still on the upswing. But even just now, I hit 100,000, but I recently kind of changed the way I did statue reviews. Everything that got me here worked, but I want to be better. So I'm doing little skits in the beginning. I'm maybe having a little bit less screen time and more focusing on the statue and, kind of experimenting with that and info sharing with similar sized channels. And I really compare myself to bigger channels, and I look at what they do. I look at what PewDiePie does, or I look at what channels that are already above me and figure out what are they doing to capture that audience. And I try to kind of incorporate that with the collecting world.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that helps out a lot is just seeing where everybody else is in the market, like what are they doing? Because it makes sense. I mean, their numbers are climbing. It's
Right.
like, okay, how do you compare, and sometimes it's a little bit different. Like I said, for us, we do pops, but I've done comic books. I started getting back into comic books. I think the only little statue that I have right now is a Batgirl that I picked up at GameStop and was on clearance, but it was cool looking.
Yeah.
And, but at the same time, I don't have the big room for the huge statues.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just kind of going from there. And that's all I wanted to make sure that to learn the terminology, with like a legendary scale. When people talk about that, like what would a legendary scale, be?
And a lot of those terms are like terms that Sideshow has coined. Like they consider their legendary scale line is everything that's half scale. So like half the size of a person, or they'll have a legendary scale bust, which is like half the size of what a human head would be, So there's a lot of terms. They use terms like maquette, which is still a term that the collecting community is not really too clear on, because a maquette could be quarter scale, but if it's a diorama, they're 1/5 scale, so it's kind of one of those things that you learn as you go, as you collect, as you make mistakes and buy things that you didn't realize were going to be bigger or smaller or whatever. Or watching shows like this to get educated, doing your research.
Well, now I have a quiz for you that I put together. It's a 10-question quiz, and it's just kind of covering some of the knowledge. Now, I don't know if you've ever done these. They're called joinmyquiz.com. So you do it through your phone. I don't know. Do you have a secondary device? Or are you doing it? Okay. Hey, Lisa Noble, how are you? So I was putting it together just as it's like a comic book knowledge thing. I just wanted to have a little fun with it. So let me go ahead and pull this up and share it for you.
Okay.
Just to kind of see how you enjoy it. Now, I will say, there is a question. Like I said, I thought the first omnibus was the Fantastic Four. And I know you mentioned something about Spider-Man. And so that's what I wanted to find out too. It's just the history of stuff, because they're really, really intriguing with everything that is out there. I mean, comics, slabbing, just everything in general. And let's see. Now with statues, can you, if you want to keep that statue and hang on to it, right? You can encase it, right? And to where like maybe it'll never come out of the case. Is that something that you would do?
Welcome to Gem Mint Collectibles.
Wait, hold on a second. Let me put that in. Is that something?
You can get a display like that. Like I have module cases, which are fairly expensive, but they are encased in acrylic. Now, the front cover is a magnetized frame that you can take on and off. But yeah, to keep dust out and stuff, you can kind of get a case like that or build your own kind of thing, because dust and UV light are going to be the enemies to painted polystone. So if you could create something to avoid that, then you'll be good.
Okay. Because like I said, I do plan this year to look into some extra collectible type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I also want like some horror. Now, is there like some Freddy Krueger inside the show collectibles do like Jason Voorhees?
Yeah, they do, man. I'm not into horror, but there's a lot of horror statues that I wouldn't mind having, man. And I think there's other companies, even like I think ECC is a company.
Okay. ECC. I'm going to write that down.
Should I share my screen on this quiz or what?
I'm pulling it up right now. I put it in the chat because they will sometimes go in there too. The chat likes to see how they do. So right now it's going to pull up. So it's joinmyquiz.com. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put in that code right there. It's 307151.
Am I doing something?
Yeah, so what you're going to do, Jem, is you're going to go to joinmyquiz.com on your secondary device.
Okay.
All right. And then you're going to put in that code, and the code is 307151. And then once you're in there, basically what I'll do is I'll just run it, and then it's just a quiz. It's a 10-question quiz, and just see how you do. I'm sure you'll do fine. But I just had a couple of questions on there.
I don't know why it's not coming up on my phone. Hold on, let me see it on here.
So let's see if I go. Let me see if I can give you the link here in the.
My phone is not coming up. Okay, here's the code: 307151.
Correct.
All right.
Okay. Yes. So you're in there now. Okay. So we'll just put this through real quick, and just kind of test a little bit of knowledge, have some fun with you guys. Like I said, sometimes the chat, they like to get in there too and have some fun with it.
Oh, I was in there twice on accident, so ignore the Gem Mint one. I'm in here as Gem Mint Collectibles.
Oh, okay. No worries. That's not a problem. Let's see. And then what's good about this too, Jem, just to give you a clue, because we play this in the community a lot with our on the Funko Pop side. If you get the question wrong, it usually comes back through as a redemption. Like you get an opportunity as a redemption too. So sometimes that happens with that. So now Lisa Noble, she's a big comic book person as well. She says the Horror Dome has great statues. Okay.
Cool.
Let's see here. Now I'm going to.
How do I start the quiz?
Say that again.
How do you start the quiz?
I started from here, and then it should show up on your phone. So you're in. So watch. I'm going to push start, and it'll give you a countdown.
Oh, here we go.
Coming through for you.
Yeah, I'm on my computer with it. Okay.
And then I turn the music off because sometimes it gets loud. People that have their headphones on and stuff like that. And like I said, just 10 questions to go through there. Just kind of see how you do.
The He-Man one. Hold on. Oh, man, I was wrong.
Now remember, you do get redemptions. So usually it'll come back after a couple of them. They usually do a redemption.
Back on top, baby.
And what's good about this too is that people can go at their pace. So you can come in and someone can finish, but they might not end up. They can finish first, but they still might not end up first. A person that's still going through could end up. You get a lot of extra like bonus points, level up points. Sometimes you can freeze time. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with this. And you build your questions yourself, so it's a lot of fun too. And if anybody in the chat, if you guys have any questions in regards to statues, comics, anything in regards that you'd like to throw Jem's way, be more than happy to post that up there as well.
How do you use the power-ups? Funko Unicorn is killing me, man.
Yeah, Caitlin, she's really good. She loves her Wonder Woman. She likes her Hawk Girl. So she's a DC.
Oh man.
I know, it's like sometimes I'll get on these and because they'll do them like on Sunday, and they'll do them based on like RoboCop or Die Hard and movies I haven't seen in a while, and then you're like, God, now you start thinking like, okay, you look at the answer and you're like, oh, I don't know if it's this one, and sometimes they're hard and you have to really think. So I try to.
Got me.
Well, there are still looks like still some are moving in the chat. Let's see what's real quick here. Oh, so Caitlin's coming through, but Phelps is pulling through right now. See how that moves? It moves around.
Yeah.
You got Lisa Noble, King Bob, Flipcake. So we'll see if Caitlin stays up top. Now, Caitlin, like I said, she does customs. Like she'll take Funko Pops and she turns them into customs. Like she did a great Wolverine based on an old version comic book. So she does a lot of that. She pretty much she's always bringing some knowledge. Let's see here. What we have should be coming through, I think. Okay, it should be finishing. So, okay, so Funko Unicorns, Phelps, and Gem Met. I mean, you're still right there. So that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Now, real quick, just so how did Spider-Man gain his powers? Obviously, so he was not bitten by a radioactive spider. He was a radioactive spider. Which superhero said that who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? It was the Shadow.
Yeah, that one I had no idea.
Wonder Woman comes from what island? Paradise Island. And
See, I was looking for Themyscira.
Now Themyscira became their village, came their like their like town, but that's one of the things I was reading up. That's why I put Scara Island, because I was going to put Themyscira, but then I was like, people might relate that a little bit. But Paradise Island was the term, at least that's what they had said. What are Wolverine's claws made of? Everybody got that, adamantium. So I thought maybe Beskar could be one. No. With the special memory fiber in his cape, Batman is and I didn't really know this, unfortunately, but he can slowly fall. So I thought that was kind of interesting, the special memory fibers. So and then there was the time travel, we talked about. And then there's a picture. You got your toy line character for the He-Man. He never made it into the TV show, and that was Clamp Champ.
I got that one wrong, and I got it on a redemption.
Yeah, and like I said, it was a good character, but it just never made it into the TV show. And then what is He-Man's tagline? By the power of Grayskull, I have the power. Yes, not I am the power or I am He-Man. It is I have the power. And then Adam's sword, where did it go when Orko accidentally made it disappear? And that was to Eternia's past. Now, some people might see the Grayskull up there, but it's Eternia's past. And then in 1961, Marvel created an omnibus, but what was the characters? Like I said, Namor was a character for the comics and the first character, but it was Fantastic Four is what it had shown. But when you mentioned Spider-Man, I think there might have been different versions of, like, maybe Spider-Man was a first, but then I
think it was a Barnes and Noble exclusive book or something. But
yeah, and that's why I was like, oh, okay. And because like I said, I'm still learning about omnibuses. And I talked about Batman in the beginning. I did say there was 82 different outfits in the comic.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
So in 88, that's the year I graduated. But that's question 10. So that's, like I said, that's one thing that we do from time to time. I like to, with my guests, have a little bit of fun and just kind of put that out there and just kind of go from there. But like I said, I really appreciate you, Jim, being here today, taking the time, and just when I reached out to you, just to be able to say, yeah, Eric, I'll come and hang out. And, I really enjoyed being able to meet you. I look forward to a lot of your stuff in the future. If anybody in the chat, if you guys have, a question, I would be more than happy to throw that out there. Oh, real quick, Flipcake did have, hold on, Flipcake. So with statues, who is a good artist to look up?
Yeah, I really like Martine Canali, who does a lot of stuff for Sideshow. Like Josh Phelps mentions, Daniel Bell also on Sideshow now. Franco Carlissimo does a lot of unlicensed commissions. I think he's a great sculptor. Jason Fabok has been doing a lot of design stuff for Prime One now. He's an artist, a DC artist. He's not a sculptor though, but he has like a Batman Grimm coming out and a couple of Batman statues coming out. But as far as sculptors, I like Daniel Bell, Martin Canali, Mark Newman is another one. And really the Sideshow premium formats, if you go to their site and look at their premium formats, they'll tell you when you click on the individual statue who the sculptor is on the bottom.
Okay. So there you go, Flipkick. And then Funko Pop and Unicorns, like I said, she has a bunch of DC collectibles, Diamond Select, and she's got her side shows as well. She's big on the DC big time.
Yeah.
But other than that, let me go ahead and get this up here. I just wanted to kind of give it a little send off here.
For me and just sent it to me out the blue. What's going on, Gemini? It's your boy Gem Mint. Your boy Gem Mint. Your boy Gem Mint.
And it's your girl Fee. And it's your girl Fee. And it's your girl Fee.
300 more and we hit that 10K. You see me do top 10 lists of my favorite omnibus. This huge box. Plus, I did try reading this. It's about 18 inches. So this is the one that I went with. It's this classic comic book suit. I've had my eye on this for a while, and that's what makes it fun for me. Say with you, fresh. Peace. Stay tuned, I guess. Did he kick himself out? Yeah, that's funny. So somebody made that for me in Pat Cave Comics. He's on YouTube as well and on Instagram. And he made that for me, and man, it was pretty emotional. Now, he took the clip on the beginning and the end was from the first video that I ever uploaded on the channel, and I was super like not knowing what to do, and just that's how I started. I was like, you know what, man, let me just make a video, an introduction, and just whatever comes to mind. So I put my phone on the edge of my desk and just filmed that, and it's still there right now if you guys want to see it. But yeah, I think Eric might have kicked himself out of the stream here. Maybe give him a second to come back. Or we could just turn this into a Gem Mint Collectibles live. All right, I'm going to get up out of here, man. Thanks for watching, guys. Eric, you'll probably see this on the replay. Thanks for having me on. Y'all stay minty fresh. Peace.
All right. So, so guys, just so you know, real quick, for some reason, the computer, when I went to go click off the YouTube part for that video, the computer just kicked me out. And then for some reason, when I tried to come back in, it just popped up a little window. It just popped up a little window, and then ding, 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 and it wouldn't let me put StreamYard into the browser. It was really weird. So I had to close it down and restart it and just kind of go from there. But once again, appreciate Gem and PHIE for coming in, Gem Mint Collectibles, spending a little bit of time and just doing what they do and sharing and showcasing. So we really appreciate it. Like I said, he is the He-Man. He is doing extremely well. They both are putting effort into the channel. This is why the Gem Mint Collectibles 105K. So it's amazing. It's awesome. And just want to go ahead and close it out. Like I said, they have some great stuff. Check them out. They have a stream tomorrow as well. So be sure to check that out. Like I said, Stan Lee says, enough said, guys. Everything went well. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. And let's close him out real quick. All right, guys. You guys have a great day. Like I said, this is In the Spotlight. Next week, Saturday, we're going to have Smile World. Smile World will be coming in, stopping in the Spotlight.